You picked your last coffee order in under 3 seconds. You told yourself you know exactly why. You like the taste, you like the price, you like the routine. But what if none of that is actually true? What if your brain doesn't know why you make any of your choices, and instead it's building a story about it after the fact, every single time? Scientists have run experiments where they switch the thing you chose for the thing you rejected, and most people don't notice. They just explain why they picked the thing they never picked. If that sounds impossible, stay with me, because by the end of this, you'll understand why you don't actually trust your own decisions, and you never really have. Think about the last real decision you made. Maybe it was which job offer to take. Maybe it was ending a relationship or staying in one. You probably remember feeling certain. You had reasons. They felt solid. But here's the uncomfortable question underneath all of this. Where did those reasons actually come from? Did you examine the evidence and arrive at a conclusion? Or did you feel a pull first and only afterward go looking for reasons to justify it? Most people assume the first version is true. Psychologists have spent decades proving it's almost always the second. And the strangest part is that your brain hides this process from you so well, you'd swear on anything that you know your own mind. Here's where the science starts. Daniel Kahneman described the mind as two systems working side by side. System 1 is fast. It's automatic. It reacts before you're even aware you're reacting. System 2 is slow. It's the deliberate, effortful part of your brain that actually checks the logic. The problem is System 2 is expensive. It burns energy. So your brain, being efficient above all else, tries to avoid using it whenever possible. Most of your daily decisions, what to eat, who to trust, what to buy, are handled entirely by System 1. Then System 2 shows up afterward, not to decide, but to explain. It builds the reasoning. It writes the story. But here's where it gets interesting. That story isn't just incomplete. Sometimes it's completely made up. Neuroscientist Michael Gazzaniga discovered something remarkable while studying patients whose brain hemispheres had been surgically separated. He showed one half of a patient's brain a picture of a chicken claw, and the other half a snow scene. When asked to point to a related image, one hand pointed to a chicken, the other pointed to a shovel. That makes sense, until you ask the patient to explain the shovel. The half of the brain that controls speech never saw the snow. It only saw the chicken claw. So it invented an answer on the spot. It said the shovel was for cleaning out the chicken shed. Gazzaniga called this brain region the interpreter. Its job isn't to find the truth. Its job is to make everything feel like it makes sense, even when it doesn't. And that interpreter never turns off. It's running in your head right now. Now something surprising happens when you test this outside a lab. Psychologist Petter Johansson ran an experiment using nothing more than photographs of faces. He showed people 2 pictures and asked them to pick which one they found more attractive. Then, using a simple trick, he handed them back the photo they had actually rejected. Most people didn't notice the switch, and when asked why they chose that face, they didn't hesitate. They pointed to details that weren't even there. Earrings that didn't exist. A smile that wasn't in the photo. They weren't lying. They genuinely believed the reasons they were inventing in real time. The same thing happened with jam. People tasted 2 flavors, picked a favorite, then confidently defended a flavor they had actually turned down moments earlier. There's another layer to this that makes it worse. Researcher Emily Pronin found that we believe we have special access to our own minds, a kind of front row seat nobody else gets. So when we explain our own choices, we trust it completely. But when someone else explains their choices, we're suspicious. We assume they're spinning, justifying, covering for themselves. We never apply that same suspicion to ourselves. Pronin found that 84% of people are convinced they would notice if their choice had been secretly switched. They wouldn't. The data says so. But almost nobody believes that about themselves. We treat our own intentions as fact and everyone else's as excuses. It's not arrogance exactly. It's a blind spot built directly into how the brain processes itself. There's another layer hiding underneath even that. The story your interpreter tells doesn't just depend on what happened. It depends on how the choice was worded in the first place. Researchers Amos Tversky and Daniel Kahneman proved that people react completely differently to the exact same information, depending on how it's framed. Tell someone a treatment has a 5% chance of dying, and they hesitate. Tell them the same treatment has a 95% chance of survival, and they say yes without blinking. Nothing about the treatment changed, only the wording did. That's because losses hit the brain roughly twice as hard as an equivalent gain. So your brain isn't calmly weighing outcomes at all. It's reacting to the shape of the sentence, and then your interpreter steps in afterward, insisting you made a careful, rational call. What most people don't realize is that intelligence doesn't fix any of this. Psychologist Keith Stanovich coined a term for it, dysrationalia, the gap between how smart someone is and how rational they actually behave. A sharper mind doesn't stop the interpreter from inventing stories. It just builds better, more convincing stories. Smart people aren't less biased. They're more skilled at defending their bias, so it looks like reasoning. This connects to something called naive realism, the quiet belief that you see the world exactly as it is, with no filter at all. If you believe that, then anyone who disagrees with you must be misinformed, or biased, or simply wrong. It never occurs to most people that they might be the one wearing the filter. This changes everything about how you might see your own certainty. That feeling of being sure, the one that shows up right before you make a big call, isn't proof that you've reasoned it through. It might just be your interpreter finishing its job quietly, before you were even aware a decision had been made. The confidence you feel isn't evidence. It's a symptom of a brain that's very good at hiding its own process. That doesn't mean your choices are random or meaningless. It means the story you tell about them, the one that feels so obviously true, was probably written after the choice, not before it. So what do you actually do with this? You can't switch off the interpreter. It's not a flaw you fix. It's how the brain is built. But you can build a habit around it. Before trusting a big decision, ask what evidence would prove you wrong, and actually go looking for it. That single habit is called actively open-minded thinking, and research shows it measurably improves judgment. Writing down your reasoning before you decide, instead of after, forces your slower, more honest system to actually participate. And when someone challenges your reasoning, resist the urge to assume they're the confused one. There's a real chance the story in your head is the one that needs the second look. You are not a machine that gathers evidence and calmly decides. You are a storyteller, narrating decisions that were already made somewhere out of view. That's not a flaw to be ashamed of. It's simply what a human mind is. The people who seem the most rational aren't the ones without an interpreter. They're the ones who've learned to question the stories it tells them. So next time you feel completely certain about something, pause for 1 second and ask where that certainty actually came from. If this made you rethink how sure you really are about your own mind, you know what to do. Like it, share it with someone who needs to hear it, and stick around, because there's a lot more about how your own mind is fooling you.